Every morning, 12-year-old Marcus arrived at Lincoln Elementary exhausted, his homework undone, his eyes heavy with a tiredness that sleep couldn't cure. His teacher, Mrs. Johnson, saw only laziness and defiance. She had no way of knowing that this quiet boy spent his nights being a father to 3 younger siblings, a mother to babies who cried for someone who would never come home again. If you believe in second chances, in the hidden strength of children, and in the power of understanding over judgment, then pause right now. Like this video, subscribe to Heart Stories, and share this story. Let the world remember that every child carries a story we may never see. Mrs. Johnson was a teacher of 15 years at Lincoln Elementary in downtown Chicago, respected and feared in equal measure. She believed in discipline, in structure, in the idea that excuses were the enemy of excellence. Her classroom was pristine, her expectations clear, and her patience thin when it came to students who didn't meet her standards. She had seen too many bright minds waste away because someone, somewhere, had made it easy for them to fail. Marcus sat in the back corner, always quiet, always tired. His uniform polo was clean but faded, his sneakers worn but tied tight. He never caused trouble, never spoke out of turn, but he also never turned in his assignments on time. For 3 months, Mrs. Johnson had watched him struggle, had seen the potential in his eyes during lessons, only to be disappointed again and again by empty pages and forgotten deadlines. What she didn't know was that Marcus's mother had died in a car accident 8 months ago on the Dan Ryan Expressway. What she couldn't see was that his father had disappeared shortly after the funeral, leaving behind 4 children in a cramped South Side apartment with barely enough to survive. The oldest at 12, Marcus had become everything. The breadwinner with his after-school job bagging groceries at Tony's Market, the caregiver who heated up mac and cheese for dinner every night, and the protector who sang lullabies to chase away their nightmares. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Mrs. Johnson called for homework to be submitted, and once again, Marcus's desk remained empty. Her frustration, building for months, finally boiled over. She walked to his desk, her heels clicking against the linoleum floor like a countdown to judgment. "Marcus," she said, her voice cutting through the classroom's silence. "Stand up." The boy rose slowly, his shoulders curved inward as if trying to disappear. The other students watched with the kind of uncomfortable attention that comes when someone else's pain becomes your entertainment. 3 months, Mrs. Johnson continued, her voice rising. 3 months of excuses, 3 months of laziness, 3 months of wasted potential. Do you think education is a game? Do you think your future is something you can ignore? Marcus said nothing. He had learned that words only made things worse, that explanations sounded like excuses, and that adults rarely wanted to hear the truth when it was complicated and sad. Mrs. Johnson reached for his composition notebook, the one he always carried but never seemed to use for assignments. "If you won't do your homework in this book, then maybe I should show the class what you do write about. Maybe that will motivate you to focus on what actually matters." She opened the notebook to the first page, expecting to find doodles, game scores, or the meaningless scribbles of a distracted child. Instead, her eyes fell upon something that made her breath catch in her throat. The page was filled with careful, childish handwriting. But these weren't the ramblings of a lazy student. They were the desperate notes of a boy trying to hold his world together. Tuesday. Lily has fever. Gave her Tylenol at 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. Need to get more from CVS. Jamal cried for Mama again. Told him she's watching from heaven. Destiny ate all her chicken nuggets today. Good sign. Remember, milk, bread, baby formula for Lily. Mrs. Johnson turned the page, her hands trembling slightly. Wednesday. Worked at Tony's Market until 11 p.m. Mr. Rodriguez gave me extra hours because I helped restock the cereal aisle. Jamal's teacher says he's doing better in kindergarten. Destiny drew a picture of our family. She put Mama in it. I didn't tell her Mama can't come back. Another page. Thursday. Lily walked today. 3 steps before she fell down. Destiny clapped so loud, Jamal smiled for the first time this week. Maybe we're getting stronger. Mama, I hope you're proud up there. I'm trying to be like you were. The classroom had fallen silent. Mrs. Johnson continued reading, each page revealing more pieces of a puzzle she had never tried to solve. There were shopping lists written in a child's hand, schedules for feeding times, reminders to check on a baby's fever, and heartbreaking attempts to comfort siblings who asked questions he couldn't answer. Friday. Couldn't do math homework. Lily wouldn't stop crying. Thinks she's getting another ear infection. Jamal helped make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner. He's growing up too fast. Sometimes I'm scared I'm not enough for them, but Mama always said we're stronger together. Mrs. Johnson's vision blurred as tears she hadn't expected began to fall. The notebook wasn't filled with laziness or defiance. It was filled with love, responsibility, and a maturity that no 12-year-old should have to carry. She closed the notebook gently, as if it were made of glass. The classroom remained silent, 30 pairs of eyes watching as their strict teacher struggled to find words. Marcus stood frozen, waiting for the humiliation he was certain would follow. Instead, Mrs. Johnson did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She knelt down beside his desk, bringing herself to his eye level. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice soft and broken. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." The boy's carefully constructed walls began to crumble. Tears he had held back for months started to fall, and for the first time since his mother died, he allowed himself to look truly vulnerable. "I try to do homework," he whispered back, "but Lily gets scared at night, and Jamal has bad dreams, and Destiny needs help with her reading. I want to be a good student, but they need me more." Mrs. Johnson's heart shattered completely. Here was a child doing the work of 3 adults, carrying burdens that would crush grown men, and she had called him lazy. She had seen his empty desk as defiance when it was actually sacrifice. "You're not lazy, Marcus," she said, loud enough for the class to hear. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." What happened next changed more than just Marcus's life. Mrs. Johnson called a meeting with Principal Williams, then contacted the school's social worker to ensure the family received proper support. She arranged for Marcus to complete his assignments during lunch breaks when possible, and organized a tutoring program with 8th grade students who could help him catch up. But more importantly, she learned to look beyond the surface, to ask questions before making assumptions, and to remember that every child carries stories she might never fully understand. The other students, who had witnessed this moment of raw honesty, also changed. They began helping Marcus with notes he missed, sharing supplies he couldn't afford, and treating him not as the class slacker, but as the hero he had always been. Months later, Marcus's grades improved dramatically, not because his responsibilities had decreased, but because he finally had a support system that understood his challenges. His siblings were enrolled in the school's aftercare program, the family qualified for food assistance, and Marcus found balance between being a brother and being a student. Mrs. Johnson kept that notebook in her desk drawer for the rest of her career. Whenever she felt frustrated with a struggling student, she would open it and remember that behind every behavior is a story, and behind every story is a human heart doing its best to survive. Sometimes the quietest students carry the loudest burdens. Sometimes the ones who seem to care the least are actually caring for everyone else. Before we judge, before we assume, before we label someone as lazy or defiant, maybe we should remember Marcus's story. If this touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Heart Stories. We believe that every person has a story worth telling, and every story has the power to change hearts. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever misjudged someone before learning their story? What did it teach you about compassion and understanding?